So you want to record your vocals and get the best sound possible, but you're not sure what type of microphone you need. In this video, you'll find out what the best type of microphone is for recording whatever kind of music or dialogue you'll be recording, and for whatever environment you're going to be recording in. Hey everyone, Joe here. It's important to get the right mic for the job, because no matter how great your recording technique is, how great your mix is, if you're starting off with a bad recording, you're going to end up with a bad finished product. Now, there are three considerations that you need to be thinking about before buying your first microphone for your vocals. And those are what room you'll be recording in, the sound that you're after, and your budget. In part one of this video, I'll go over the main types of microphone. Then in part two, I'll give you some recommendations on types of mic depending on those three considerations. And you'll also be able to hear the difference your mic choice makes. Let's do this. The three main types of microphone that you'll likely be choosing between are dynamic, condenser, and ribbon, with dynamic and condenser mics being the most common. Condenser microphones like the AT2035 or the Rode M3, they're very sensitive, so they pick up quite a lot of what's going on in the room sound itself, and not just the person speaking or singing. They tend to have a large frequency response, which means they can pick up very detailed sounds from the top end of the frequency spectrum, the highs and the lows as well. Condenser mics also need power to run as well. Some of them have a battery compartment that can provide power, or you'll be plugging it into an audio interface which can provide phantom power to the mic, or if you're using a USB mic, you'll get power from the USB port. Dynamic mics, on the other hand, like the Shure SM57, they have more of a tighter, smaller pickup pattern. They're going to be picking up mostly directly what's in front of them. They're a little bit less sensitive, generally have a shorter frequency spectrum that they can pick up. They tend to be very robust and can pick up a higher level of sound pressure, so basically higher level sound sources that you're recording, and they don't need to be powered. And finally, ribbon microphones are an option as well, although less common, particularly in home recording. They tend to be a lot warmer sounding with the high end rolled off. They normally have a figure 8 polar pattern, so they'll be picking up what's directly in front of the mic and also behind the mic. So again, the sound is more heavily affected by the sound of the room as well. They can be pricier as well, particularly with passive ribbon microphones that often need a dedicated preamp to run. Now let's talk about which type of microphone you might want to pick depending on those three considerations that I mentioned at the beginning: the room, the sound, and the budget. So starting with the room, put simply, if you're recording in a room that hasn't been acoustically treated, so maybe a room in your house that you haven't set up for recording, or if you're recording a podcast in like an office space, something like that, you're going to want to minimize the amount of room sound that you're picking up. So in this situation, a dynamic mic is probably going to be the best thing for you. They don't pick as much of the room sound up, they're more intimate, and they can sound fantastic as well. I mean, there are plenty of great records out there that have had their vocals recorded with the SM57. When I was in a studio recently, we had to record the vocals in a practice room, and it's not perfectly kitted out for vocals really. There's no vocal booth in there or anything. So I used a Shure SM7B, really great microphone. It picked up a really solid recording, and it avoided some of that room sound that I didn't want to pick up. If you have a great sounding room though, if it's been treated or you're recording in a professional studio space, then it's really just down to the sound that you're after and your budget. The sound you're after is really the most important thing to think about. After all, we're making recordings, making music, making podcasts, whatever, and people are going to be listening to it. It wants to sound right. It wants to sound the best that it can be. Now, I can't tell you a specific microphone that's like the best for vocals. It's very subjective, and anyone who recommends the best microphone for recording vocals isn't really giving you the full picture. Now, in terms of what type of microphone, it's not like all dynamics sound this way, all condenser mics sound this way. There are some similarities within the types. For example, ribbon mics do tend to sound warmer, but there's a huge range of sounds. Like one condenser mic can sound completely different to another condenser mic. You're going to need to listen to samples on the internet. Some microphone retailers will have recordings that you can listen to, compare them, or on YouTube, or if you can try them out yourself, then that's even better. So some microphones are really clear and bright, like the Rode NT1A, which is a condenser microphone. Something like the AT2035, which I mentioned before, is a little bit warmer. I think it works better on my voice. And if you're recording a podcast or some kind of broadcast audio and you want something really warm and intimate, then consider an SM7B or maybe a ribbon mic. Dynamic mics are also a good option for recording very loud sources like screaming metal vocals or rap. So again, SM7B is a good option, or Electro Voice RE20. Just to give you a good example of how different microphones can sound on the same vocal source, have a listen to this recording I made where I'm recording with 3 completely different microphones: a Shure SM57 dynamic microphone, a Rode NT5 pencil condenser, and the Audio-Technica 2035 condenser microphone.
Lately I've been losing sleep, dreaming about the things that we could be. But baby, I've been praying hard. Said no more counting dollars, we'll be counting stars. Lately I've been losing sleep, dreaming about the things that we could be. But baby, I've been praying hard. Said no more counting dollars, we'll be counting stars. Lately I've been losing sleep, dreaming about the things that we could be. But baby, I've been praying hard. Said no more counting dollars, we'll be counting stars.
So listening back to those 3, it can really make quite a big difference depending on what mic you're using. I had all 3 mics lined up. Like I said, the AT2035 I think works really well with my vocals. It's detailed, but it's quite warm, it's balanced, it sounds really nice before even applying any kind of EQ or compression on. And then the NT5, I like the sound of it. It sounds a little bit bright, a little bit sizzly. It works great on acoustic guitars, but it's not my favourite for my voice in particular. And then the SM57, again, I do actually use that for if I'm recording podcasts or voiceovers, things like that. But for my vocals, it's not quite so detailed as a dynamic mic. And being in a treated room, I can get away with using a condenser and it's sounding really good. But it's subjective, if you think differently. What's your favourite out of those 3 microphones on that recording? Let me know in the comment section below. And finally, your budget. How much are you willing to spend? Prices can range from $50 to thousands of dollars, but it doesn't always mean that more expensive is better. I mentioned the SM7B a few times, but if you can't afford that $400 price tag, then an SM57 with the right EQ can give you a pretty similar kind of tone. One of my favourite microphones for vocals, the Neumann U87, can cost up to around $3,000, so huge price tag on that. But that's not to say you can't get a fantastic vocal recording with a $300 Rode NT1. There is a limit though. There are a ton of these sort of cheap, unbranded condenser microphones on Amazon and similar. You might find for like $30. They tend to sound really noisy, very high noise floor, tinny, and it's probably not worth your time. You might as well save just a little bit more to get something solid. But I mean, you can look secondhand. If you have a look on eBay or Reverb, you can normally find something like an AT2020 for around $60, and that's a fantastic vocal mic for the price. And then you could always consider selling and upgrading later when you've got a bit of extra money and you know more what you want. So ultimately, when you're choosing the type of microphone, you need to think of those 3 things: the room you're recording in, the sound that you're going for, and your budget. There's no best microphone for recording vocals. There are some great recommendations and options out there, but you need to do your research, have a listen to examples and try them out if you can. You're probably going to be leaning towards a certain type of microphone like a dynamic mic if your room doesn't sound great, or if you're recording spoken vocals, a really loud sound source. So you can lean towards different types of microphones depending on what your needs are, but I do recommend listening and trying out as many as you can. I'll leave links in the description to all the mics that I've mentioned in this video, and let me know in the comments section below, what are you going to be recording? What vocals are you recording? And do you know what mic you might want to pick? Let me know if this video has changed your mind or given you some ideas. And for more recording tips and tutorials, just hit that subscribe button. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.